Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. The former Iron Lady at the helm of the Civil Service Association turned politician Mary Isaac says this is not the time for public sector unions to be flexing their muscles. Instead, she says they need to work with the government to come up with practical solutions and help stave off a decision to downsize the public sector.
Former CSA President, now Health Minister Mary Isaac, was in the hot seat on Wednesday with host Crystal Riviere and faced the music about what many say has been her complete 180 with regard to standing up for workers' rights. Is her priority now to toe the party line? How can she justify her message to public sector unions to compromise with the government for the good of the nation when during her tenure as president of the CSA, the association remained at loggerheads with the government on wage negotiations? Isaac responded to the many burning questions and says the comparisons between then and now are like comparing apples and oranges.
What is the role of the trade union in this current environment where governments are saying, I am going to work with you as the representative of the workers? Trade unions were trying to figure out what is now their role, because it cannot be a combative role. It has to be a role where you cooperate, where you look for the solutions, because your entire country can sink. So this is not the time for trade unions to be saying, flexing their muscles and doing things like that. They have to come up with practical solutions that is going to help not just the public servant, but all those people who are unemployed. And they must ensure that government do not cut down on the public service.
Isaac has been criticized for singing a different tune on industrial relations matters for political expediency, but she says as CSA president, she guided her members based on the realities at the time.
So are you saying that the same Mary Isaac who rejected the 000 in 2015 would accept this offer by the government of St. Lucia, 50% of your salary in cash and the other half in government bonds?
Remember that there was no COVID at the time. There was not even a hurricane. There was not a breeze or a wind at the time, right? The government was not able to grow the economy. And they had already sunk the country into a very large deficit mode, right? And they were saying to public workers, we cannot help you. While the public workers were working and producing, okay? We had no disaster, no catastrophe, nothing. It was business as usual, you understand? And then to try to take a 5% for what? You see? And these are the things that I stood against, right? I always maintained while I was president of the union, when public workers came to me, I would say, yes, you have your right as a worker, but you have to give a fair day's work for that fair day's pay that you are getting. So we are in a completely different environment right now.
The minister is adamant that she has always operated on the premise that public sector workers need to be responsible.
There is absolutely no about turn. I have always operated on this premise, right? That yes, you have your rights, but you have to ensure that your right do not become your own. And I've always said to workers, do not bite the hand that feeds you. And they take it the wrong way. But myself, I apply that in my own daily life, right? Right now, who is feeding you? It's those same people, the taxpayers, who are now unemployed. Eh? That is where the government money comes from. That's where the money comes from. So you are saying to these taxpayers who have fed you for so many years now that, hey, you are out of a job, that's your business, but I want everything I can get. That is not fair.
Isaac says asking for shared sacrifice from public servants during an unprecedented global crisis brought on by COVID-19 is not asking for too much.
The founder of the Silver Shadow Performing Arts Academy, Barry George, is speaking out following the break-in at his studio on Wednesday. George says it is unfair to honest and hard-working individuals to constantly have to fend off thieves. He says he is, however, hopeful that members of the public can help by ensuring they report anyone selling their documentation or devices. Genevieve Gonzague reports.
Thieves broke into Silver Shadow Performing Arts Academy on Wednesday 20th and made away with some of its most valuables. Founder Barry George says he was on his way to ensure all COVID-19 health and safety protocol would be upheld at his studio once reopened.
So of course when I came into the building to do our normal checks, what I realized that the entire property was compromised.
George says it is really discouraging that such an incident took place, as his team is simply trying to reintroduce some semblance of normalcy to its young and aspiring artists.
More specifically, I was the one which was really hit the most because I was on the ground floor level of the building, and we had a full break and entry where all our basic things that we would need to even start up was lost, was stolen. We lost every possible electrical devices that we have in our studio, some of our documents. We had some cash in there that was gone as well too. Every possible thing that we had really was gone.
He says while he is well aware that the material items can be replaced, he is most concerned with the intellectual property and the documentation of the academy that was stolen.
We, of course, of Silver Shadow is trying to do the same to see how we can start off our classes, because this is very important to the holistic development of our kids and our young dancers and artists, especially the artists in a vulnerable time like this. The hardest part for it is that most of our documentation of the academy for the past 10 years, important stuff like that, music was created and all the things that we've been created and things we stored was really lost, and that would be a very difficult thing to retrieve. I mean, honestly, the persons who have the laptop, at least try to return that, because, that's one of the things that really hit us in terms of our information.
He has made a special appeal to the public to report anyone who is selling equipment or documents belonging to the academy. The complete loss of equipment and documentation has put Silver Shadow back at square one. George is, however, hopeful that members of the general public as well as parents of the members will aid in helping get the business back on its feet. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Economic Development Minister Guy Joseph is tooting St. Lucia's horn and making some bold pronouncements regarding St. Lucia's COVID-19 response and its plan to resuscitate the economy. He says St. Lucia is top 3 in the world when it comes to its COVID response and is setting the standard for economic recovery.
St. Lucia continues to be a world leader in dealing with this matter. If you look at the plan outlined by the team for the reopening of the borders in St. Lucia, and for some reason, when we speak about reopening the border, we have to be thinking of 2 borders, 758, 759, and the borders that are really the airport and the seaports. So I think that we have a comprehensive plan. And our plan is so comprehensive that the first world countries are looking at what we are doing, and they are not able to even begin to measure up to the standards that are set for us to reopen.
Joseph says all the indicators point to St. Lucia having the capacity to safely reopen all economic activity on a phased basis at this juncture.
The reality is St. Lucia managed this health pandemic better than I would say any island within the region. And globally, we are among the top 5 nations in handling this global pandemic. So, given that outcome and being able to deal with the situation is to move to the next step of dealing with the economy. The country's economy cannot remain closed indefinitely, because now you have to make a choice between, do I allow people to die physically or do I allow people to die economically? And one can lead to the other in the process. So it is striking that right balance.
That was Economic Development Minister Guy Joseph. After recording the largest single-day increase of COVID-19 cases globally on Wednesday, the continued threat of the virus has been brought into sharp focus. In contrast, St. Lucia continues to record no additional confirmed cases of COVID-19. Thursday, the 21st of March, is the 18th consecutive day since the island recorded a confirmed case of COVID-19. The most recent batch of 40 tests conducted were all negative. This brings the total of national testing to date to 867 tests. The Ministry of Health says it is indeed encouraged by the results. However, it warns that people should not allow this trend to cause them to become complacent. The reduced numbers in testing this week are attributed to a reduced number of people accessing care at respiratory clinics. The Ministry of Health notes a reduced number of people with respiratory signs and symptoms. The ministry also encourages every individual who is experiencing flu-like symptoms to access respiratory clinics. The service is free to the user, and all COVID-19 related care is free of charge to individuals. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more coming up after the break.